Good morning, everyone. So this is my second time here. Last time when we came in, we talked about smart factory and the need for that. I think this time everyone is talking about how to do it, right? So when we started off this journey in India, we came in with the invitation from Mr. Kesaji. We thought probably this is not the market for us to come in because it's quite difficult market to penetrate in. But I think previous presentation from Mr. Goel said that Google, the plan is fluid, because in our business plan, India was not in the plan, but it completely changed. Now India is one of the top markets for us in smart factory implementations. Now, the topic which I'm going to talk today is smart analytics and how it helps faster decision making and higher profitability. Now, I would start from buyer's perspective and what buyers expect from you, because ultimately what the manufacturer is going to deliver is what buyers need, and what buyers expecting you from is what their consumers expecting from you, right? So entire ecosystem is changing with the evolution of social media and things like that. You see, the consumers are buying not based on what the designers are putting on the displays. It's now based on Instagram influencers, how they wear and how they looks like. Right? If Kim Kardashian comes up with new outfit and the next day 100 million followers want something similar, right? And they want to buy this online, digital. So what does it mean to the manufacturers and the middle entire supply chain? And they need to act fast, because the next day it could be a different style. And at the same time, the brand loyalty is also going down. You see, like, every year, tens of hundreds of thousands of new brands are coming up. And these new brands, probably after 2 years, 3 years, they don't exist. And a new set of brands are coming up. Now, how do we build factories? How do we build manufacturing to cater for these kind of ecosystem? Now, people buy fashion on Amazon or Zilingo, the Asia's mall, right? So these are the changes that we are going through as an industry. Now, when that happens, what the buyers, like your buyer may not be a buying house, may not be a brand, it could be a online mall, right? So they would expect you faster lead times, proactive mindset, and they would like to have the transparency. And we talked about trust. And the trust comes with the transparency and the visibility. And these people like to do business with like-minded businesses, right? That's the culture that Gunish talked about. So all these things they expect, right? We like to do business with like-minded people. So if they like technology, if they are doing their businesses on data-driven cultures, definitely they want you to follow that. If they are digitally transforming their businesses, they would like you to do so. Right? So on top of all these changes happening around you, we also have our own challenges as manufacturers. And we talk about things like on-time delivery and at the acceptable quality. And the price can't be changed. You just have to optimize the cost. And all this needs to be delivered on time. Right? So in order to do that, you need to have the agility in the process, agility in the people, and technology should be the enabler for this. Now, only way we can change our manufacturing facilities is through continuous improvements to reduce cost and lead time. Now, when you say continuous improvement, without technology also you can do continuous improvement, where the technologies or the processes, the arts, like Lean, Six Sigma, you can do continuous improvements. But what makes it faster is bringing smart technologies like smart analytics. If you combine your continuous improvement journey with process improvements, with people improvements, and also you use the technologies like smart analytics, it becomes 10 times faster. Now, we all use data and we all use analytics, but the question is how we use it. Most of the organizations today, they use analytics very descriptive and diagnostic. It's most of the time after the fact. What happened, right? Why it happened. These are the things that we do. I mean, all of you have some kind of systems, ERPs or HR systems. And the data you collect from the shop floor, but you are running a manufacturing business, right? And your heart of the business is manufacturing in the shop floor. And most of the data you collect on piece of papers, it goes into Excel sheet and goes into your ERP. And you have probably an analytic application run on top of that. But where that data sits in, few elite people in the organization. But in the shop floor, when you really need that data to make decisions, at that point of decision making, is it available real time? That's the key question. And how do you use analytics in a smart way to bring it down to the real operational people and move your organization from, looking at data on backward basis, using the data in more forward basis. That's where analytics comes into play, and use analytics and the data as a strategic asset to your business. The key point I want to highlight on this is whether you can make this data at the point of decision making in the operation. Because in the shop floor, it's like, it's like a racetrack, and you need a racing car to go through that. You can't have a big bus going through that. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Whenever we goes in, people will say, hey, yeah, I have that data and I have that in ERP, and yeah, I have Power BI and I have that analytics. But does the operator on the ground or the QC on the ground, production manager on the ground, do they have it on real time to make the decision at particular location? I mean, that makes a huge difference. That's what makes it smart. Now, we talk a lot about, the need for that. And Prashant talked about need for smart factories and moving for data-driven culture, and data being one pillar of being smart. Now, the question is, how do we do that? So it depends on the customer. It depends on the maturity of the customer. Now, we have visited about 200 factories over the last few years across Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Indonesia. Now, even though all these are apparel customers, they have different needs. And the process, even though it's apparel, is different for high fashion like Delhi to someone doing sportswear in Sri Lanka or Vietnam, or someone doing denim in Bangladesh. And the maturity of the process. Sometimes we implement these solutions, smart analytics, the results are not that great because people are not adapting it. The process is not ready. So sometimes we implement in factories where the results are beyond our expectation because the maturity of the customer process is really high, and that yields far better results. And the other key important thing is the implementation roadmap, right? One thing is the maturity of the customer. Second, where do we start? Because most of the time when we goes in, we talks to them and they say, hey, I want to build a smart factory. I want to have everything connected. I want to completely take out papers from day one. So we're trying to go to the moon from day one, but it's not going to happen, right? So what are you doing today is you're writing things on piece of paper, and you're doing complete manual operation, and next day you want to be completely smart factory. It's not going to happen. So it's important that you understand where you want to start and where you want to go in a period of time. It could be you're starting this with your sewing line or your quality, your production or your order tracking, and then move on from there, because you try to take a too big undertaking, it's not going to work. We had a couple of implementations in Bangladesh, huge factories, and they have most of their things in-source, like even big functions like washing, and you have to track from end to end, and it takes long time, and the project teams get tired too often because they don't see the results fast. So what we recommend is start implementing these smart analytics, real-time data in certain places where you can get quick wins, and then that will drive the success to other departments. Now it's important, bring this to the operational staff in real time, and everyone needs to have access to this data. That's where the trust is created. That's where a single source of truth. That's where the value of data going to come. And the other thing is using the smart manufacturing technologies from the technology point of view. Now, when we look at 3, 4, 5 years back, the cloud everyone was talking about it, but it was not really suitable for these kind of applications. Now, with the availability of 4G, cloud is becoming really a reality. Now, when we deploy these kind of solutions, not on-premise, on the cloud, the deployment time frame has taken completely a different, timelines. We used to implement the smart factory solution for months. Now your implementation time is like in weeks. And we have seen some of these implementations in factories we have implemented in Delhi. My teams could go in and come out in days and show the results, right? So because of the cloud, where everything is done at the back end, and your data collection points are really on the factories. And then the thing which you need to really look at is, after implementation, do a reality check whether it's achieving the customer's voice. What is customer's voice? I want things on time. I want things at a higher quality. So are you improving the quality levels? Are you reducing the defect levels? Are you delivering on time? Are you improving the consistency of the factory? Are you improving the compliance of the factory? So these are the reality checks you need to do after you implement this. Now, I would like to touch upon a bit. I think most of you guys know these use cases. We can, as I said, we can start from one place. We just also want to understand where it's going to end, right? So 360-degree view. As I said, the foundation is the technology, and then you take the data from the right places so that you have enough information to make decisions, right? So use cases could be around predictive maintenance, where you're trying to predict downtime of the machines and trying to optimize your spare parts. Or it could be just a KPI monitoring, because to drive your KPIs to be continuously improving, because nothing measured, nothing going to get improved, right? You start measuring something, it's going to get improved. If you don't measure, it's not going to get improved. And the other aspect is the predictive quality. Before the defect happens, or based on the learnings you have taken from the previous styles, whether you can avoid those defects on a similar styles which is coming in, right? And the other thing is around the process mining, where when you have the information on the inefficiencies on the processes end to end, how you improve, how you cut down the waste. And then again, how you do it based on locations, because data is of no use if it's not relevant to that particular location or that particular person. So the point is, like, what we try to do with this smart analytics is establishing a single source of truth across the organization, so that everyone is looking at the same set of data. Owners looking at from the mobile devices, workers looking at from the dashboards, and the power users looking at from the analytic apps. Everyone is looking at a single source of truth, where you build a culture of data, you build a culture of trust, because the production manager now can't sandbag the numbers. People can't buffer the numbers, right? Because everyone is looking at single source of truth. So again, the quality is the second use case, where we can find the root causes quite fast, and fix it as it happens. Even before, because most of the time you figure out like, okay, 100 defects have piled up at the end of the day, and you next day trying to figure out how to avoid it, versus can I avoid this when the third defect happens on the shop floor itself without involvement from the management, because you have the visibility on the defects. And the third is like the order tracking, real-time order tracking. Now you need to ship a order of 1,000 units with red, green and blue, with sizes of small, medium and large. Now order could be delayed because 20 pieces of red small garments are not done. But if someone can make a decision that, talking to the buyer, that the other 980 can go without this, and you can avoid penalties on air freight, right? So these are some of the things that you can bring in to bring the on-time delivery of your orders. And the other one is the work in progress, reducing the inventory, because now you have the real-time visibility on your work in progress as you go on. I'm not going to talk a lot about this since in the time interest of time, but I like to talk about some of the success stories. When we came in 2018, as I said, this was not in the plan, but as we speak now, we have 10 factories from 8 members of OGTC running more than 100 stations on this platform, right? We have managed to solve some of the problems, and it has really helped, profitability. Now, one example I could say is one of the factories which we have when we went in with the 3-month trial, there are defects for 100 units, DHU around 7%, right? But after 3 months trial, we could show that it dropped down close to about 3%, right? So that directly resulted in profitability into the bottom line, about $13,000 across 3 years from one station, right? So that's a huge number. If you deploy this in larger factories, your profitability to the bottom line going to be huge. This is only using quality module, right? So you're not talking about order tracking, you're not talking about WIP. This is only using the quality. Now, just to wrap up, we can take up in more detail in the session in the afternoon. Before deploying this smart analytic platform, most of these factories were operating on the individual-centric culture, where the worker-centric culture, individual people, performance management, individual incentives. But with this platform, we can help them to go more for group-centric, because theory of constraints, if you know, where if a group is moving, I mean, when I went in hiking with my kids and their friends, and even though some kids were moving faster, but ultimately the speed of the group depended on 1 or 2 kids who were slower. And this is the same in manufacturing as well. You can have some workers and some machines are producing at a faster rate, but ultimately your production depends on the weakest link, right? So it's no point giving incentives to the fastest link. We need to find out a way to bring the entire group to a faster possible way. I mean, that's what our systems encourage. And we managed to help reduce the inventories, because now we bring in the more visibility on the WIP. And we managed to bring the visibility of the data. So that resulted in more collaborative and more smart decision making. I mean, these were the facts that came out after these trials. And if anyone wants to go into details about how we did it, what we did it, please feel free to reach out. So in the interest of time, I'm going to wrap up here. One more point which I want to highlight is, even though if you look at the results were not good enough in the context of the scale, but if the scale is higher, the efficiency is higher, the maturity states are higher, some of the factories we have implemented, they could manage to reduce or bring bottom line improvements close to about $500,000, right? So it depends on the scale and depends on the maturity, right? With that, I would like to invite you to attend our session in the afternoon, and feel free to ask any questions if you have. Thank you very much.